Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I've filed a lot of lawsuits in my career. I've been practicing law for 30 years. I have no idea how many, but I've filed a lot of lawsuits. And when you serve somebody with a lawsuit, you serve them with a complaint, that's the lawsuit itself, and a summons. And the summons is an order from the court that says, notice to the defendant, you're being sued. And it has a bunch of stuff on there about how you need to respond to the lawsuit. But on the summons also are actually some statements that the attorney for the plaintiff or the plaintiff has to verify are true. And one of those statements is that the defendant is not in the military. People in the military get special treatment for a good reason. So let's suppose that you're involved in a car accident and it's your fault and you're going to get sued. Process server tracks you down with a summons and complaint that I filed, and they hand it to you, you've been served. Congratulations, see you in court. You got 21 days or 28 days, whatever it is in your state to answer that complaint, or you will be defaulted. However, if you're in the military, you might be shipped overseas someplace. You might be spending time at a base somewhere. You might be someplace where you can't just get away. And so the idea is that the military deserves special treatment because of the fact that they are answering to a different authority than the typical civilian walking the streets. And so on the summons, it says, in Michigan, I certify this person is not in the military. Because if they are in the military, it's a whole different process for serving them, and that's different. So just let you know, this is something that any attorney would know. Any attorney who's ever looked at a summons knows that one of the questions is this person in the military? And 99.99999% of the time, the answer is no. In fact, I've never had a case get derailed because the defendant was in the military. But here's a story that Dan sent me from the Military Times, written by Karen Jowers. Department of Justice has announced a towing company agrees to pay troops for illegally selling their vehicles. And this is a very, very bad thing, according to the allegations. A Dallas towing company has agreed to pay $50,000 as part of a settlement reached with the Justice Department regarding allegations the company illegally sold 5 service members' vehicles. Justice officials filed the complaint in September of 2020, alleging that the company auctioned off vehicles without obtaining court orders. There are some situations where if you get a judgment against somebody and they don't make it good, you then move to the next step and you can start taking their stuff. But you got to do that with a court order, okay? And so the allegation here is that they did this without a court order. And the problem is that these people whose vehicles were seized were in the military, which is a violation of the Service Members Civil Relief Act. One vehicle belonged to a now senior airman who was attending Air Force basic training at Joint Base San Antonio, Lackland, Texas. According to justice officials, when he found out his vehicle had been towed, he contacted the towing company and told them he was out of town on active duty. The owner told him she didn't believe he was in the military, and the company sold his Toyota at auction. Before leaving for basic training, he had received permission from the owner of a martial arts studio to leave his car and some personal belongings in the studio's parking lot since he no longer had a lease in Dallas. A subsequent investigation revealed that the towing company allegedly illegally sold at least 4 other vehicles belonging to service members between October 4th of 2014 and April 26th of 2019. So it's a few years this happened, but 5 times under the proposed settlement, which was filed Friday in a federal district court in Texas, the towing company must pay that man for his Toyota $20,000. The settlement must be approved by the court. The 4 other service members will share an additional $20,000 from the towing company, and the company will then pay a $10,000 civil penalty to the U.S. Treasury. Officials at the towing company and their attorneys didn't immediately answer the Military Times request for comment. However, the proposed settlement states the parties agree that, to avoid costly and protracted litigation, the claims against defendant should be resolved without further proceeding or an evidentiary hearing. The towing company not only disregarded the legal rights of service members, it made hurtful and dismissive comments about a member's military service. That's according to the Attorney General Kristen Clark of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. We were appalled to learn that this airman came home from basic training to find his car sold at auction, said the acting U.S. attorney from the Northern District of Texas in the announcement. Since 2011, the Justice Department has obtained over $474 million in monetary relief for more than 120,000 service members in its enforcement of the SCRA. And again, that is the Service Members Civil Relief Act. So people who are in the military would know about this. People who are not in the military but are doing collections should know about it. The SCRA enforcement is conducted by the Civil Rights Division, Housing and Civil Enforcement Section, and U.S. attorneys around the country. Military members and their dependents who believe their SCRA rights have been violated should contact their nearest Armed Forces Legal Assistance Program office. And that's good that the Armed Forces provide legal help for people in the military. So it's not going to cost you any money. Just give them a call, let them know what happened, see what they think. As part of the negotiated settlement, the company has developed SCRA policies and procedures for vehicle sales and disposal to comply with the SCRA. Among other things, the company is reviewing any information received from the owners or others for evidence of military service and examining the vehicle and its contents for evidence of military service, such as military paperwork, uniforms, or equipment, and searching the Defense Manpower Data Center to identify whether the person is eligible for SCRA protections. If it's determined the owner is military, the owner can't sell the vehicle without first obtaining a court order. I think it means to say that if it's determined the owner is military, the towing company can't sell the vehicle without first obtaining a court order. Towing company has also developed SCRA training material for its employees and provided those materials to justice officials for review. So you might think, really, is this that complicated? And it's not. It's not. So you're a towing company and you're towing vehicles in and around someplace where there's a military presence. And I'll tell you right now, that's one of the reasons I've not encountered this, because my law practice is generally speaking in the Detroit area. Now, there are service members in this area, but there aren't any large military bases right in this area. Okay? I mean, there just aren't. And I know there's parts of the country where there are military bases where there's a huge presence of the military. And you would know that if you're there. So a towing company should be familiar with the idea that there might be service members in this area. So when you tow a vehicle, you send a notice to the owner, and the owner goes, I'm in the military. Number one, it's not going to happen that often. But you got to tell your people, the second they say that, flag the file and put it aside and have a supervisor look at it, or somebody. I know I'm fantasizing about a company that tows vehicles having supervisors, but have somebody look at it, person in authority. And they're going to look at it and go, okay, how do you determine this? Apparently, there's a database you can use to determine this. But I also imagine that if you can get the person on the phone because they called you and said, hey, that's my car and I'm in the military, you could probably ask them, can you get us some kind of information to show that? I don't know. And there's got to be something. I would assume. I know a lot of guys with military backgrounds watch my channel. So you guys tell me. If somebody had you on the phone and said, prove to me you're in the military, and keep in mind that you've got a cell phone that takes photographs and can text those photographs someplace, isn't there some simple way that you could show them something that would maybe not prove it definitively, but at least show that you should be taken seriously here? Because the point is that if they screw this up, it costs them a ton of money. You don't want that to happen, right? You run the business. So you tow 100 vehicles and one guy goes, yeah, I'm in the military. Take the vehicle and the file, put it aside and go, can you confirm that for me? Guy confirms it. You go, okay, we got to resolve the problem with your car. How are we going to do that? Find out a way to resolve the problem. Because being in the military doesn't mean you get to skate on everything. It just means that you get extra deference because you might need it, because you might be sent over here or sent over there. And you know, courts have to make special allowances for service members, and they do. And the law makes special allowances, such as the Service Members Civil Relief Act. So it shouldn't be that difficult. But here the problem is that they got a hold of this guy because he contacted them. He said, I'm out of town. I am on active duty. And the owner of the company said, I don't believe you. Well, the owner of the company can't go to supervisor. But maybe the owner of the company needs somebody they can consult, at least to say, hey, this guy says he's in the military. What should I do? And a wise person would have said, you might want to double check that, because if you sell his car and he is, you're in deep trouble. And like I said, the summons that was used, if they went through any legal process here, might actually have a thing on it saying, I affirm the person is not in the military service. So you might have problems there too. But it's been resolved. This guy's getting 20 grand for his car. Don't quite know, but it sounds like it might be a good deal for a 1998 Toyota Corolla. I bet it auctioned for less than that. So the good news is the towing company's paying. So Military Times ran the story. Karen Jowers wrote it. Dan sent it. Thanks a lot, Dan. I appreciate that. The DOJ, towing company agrees to pay troops for illegally selling their vehicles. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Do not taunt Happy Fun Ball.